Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for spending your valuable time with the Adapt 2030 channel. People are hearing about it, talking about the U.S. debt clog, gold, silver, oil going to zero. Well, the money supply, M2, is going negative. The only time we've seen that is what? Oh, prior to the Great Depression and after World War II. Changes in the skies. Holland, we should not be seeing these types of clouds. Red sprites starting to take the form of squatter man. We're supposed to believe that both of these were carved at the exact same time from the same exact culture. Resets are just part of history. When you fall down, you bounce right back and keep on going, find a new direction to move, because it's all about weaving through the chaos and finding the opportunity and the danger. I'm going to start you right over here over Oklahoma. And remember, as I've said with so many others, the skies are going to become more electrified, and we shall see signs in the skies, and canyon walls shall walk to life once again. These are intense. They're starting to form something that you would see of the arms of Squatter Man. Plasma laboratory experiments, top left. The rest of our planet, petroglyphs. Every continent shows the exact same phenomenon. If you can't see it so clearly, Spain matches up pretty well with this. And look at that bulbous head already starting on the Squatter Man. Oh no. There should be other signs in the skies too. Oh, polar stratospheric clouds / mesospheric ice crystal clouds over Holland. That's really far south in Europe. That should not be there at all. And if you do follow what had happened with the Hunga Tonga eruption in December of 2022, it ejected so much water vapor, it added 10% more moisture to the atmosphere. But in the upper reaches of the stratosphere into the mesosphere, these ice crystal clouds will have more surface area for ozone to break down in the chlorine and bromine catalyst, meaning more UV is going to strike the crops in the southern hemisphere August, September, October, November of this coming year. UVB, damage to the crops. This is now a sign that it is happening across the northern hemisphere. These clouds should not be here at this time of the year. If you believe the ancients have marked in stone that we are in cycles and things to look for as these cycles return, the amplification, the uptick, the societal reset, and things that set us back thousands of years would be foretold in the skies, then we are looking at it right here. Because when I glimpse at something like this, it makes very little sense to me in terms of a timeline. This is called the two-dog pallet. Apparently, it was carved out of silt stone, which is difficult to carve in itself because you can see the beveled edges there, prone to break and chip while you're working the stone, and especially that center there, so perfect with the circle. Again, chipping is a main factor when carving this stone. 3300 to 3100 BC, which add another couple thousand years, it'll put 5300 to 5100 years prior. Pretty good craftsmanship for that period of time. But here's where it gets a little strange. These were supposedly carved from the same culture at the exact same time. So I'll ask you, the workmanship on this one, yeah, it's incredible in its own right, but does it match the quality? So I just put them side by side here. BlackRock warns, prepare for a recession unlike any other. History has proven the only way the Fed can fight inflation is with a recession. 80% of the retirees are concerned about inflation and very concerned about the stock market. In 2008, the stock market and housing markets crashed. Meanwhile, gold went from $800 an ounce up to $1,600 in 2.5 years. Patriot Gold Group is introducing the 2023 Recession Protection No Fee for Life IRA. Call the Patriot Gold Group today before it's too late. Mention Adapt 2030 and you're going to get the best in-class service. Patriot Gold Group has an OP for Life IRA where your 401k or IRA can be in physical gold or silver on qualifying rollovers. That's 888-546-7020. And now on with the video. So we're supposed to believe that both of these were carved in the same time period in Egypt, no less. But you can see the workmanship on the right. Yeah, I could agree. Yeah, that's 5,000 years prior. No problem. I absolutely agree with that. The one on the left, though, the technology to create that without the chipping across the bottom edges there, it's almost impossible to do with our own stoneworking materials and machinery we have today, even with CNC lathing and all these different technologies we have, even with high-speed rotational tools. So we're supposed to believe that somebody with a little copper chisel and hammer was able to do this exquisite, almost impossible feat without chipping that stone. This is what I'm saying. We've been through some of these resets before. I'm very sure of it. There's a lot of chapters of history that have just disappeared. Where did they go? Well, the fingerprints of the grand solar minimum are economic reset, population migration, and government restructuring. Happens every 400 years like clockwork. We're in it again. The cycle's already begun. But now you have to ask yourself, what intensity is this cycle? Because if you group 5 of those 400-year cycles together, we come into once in a 2,000-year cycle. The upset and the backstepping of society and civilization at that point in terms of everything that we know in technology would go back 150 to 200 years. There would be complete breakdown of supply chains. Everything would be regional. It would just be real difficult to maintain society. And if the basics are only food and shelter, development of high technology is, well, a couple hundred years into the future from now, if history plays out the way it has over the last 5, 7, 8,000 years. Does it make sense why the world's moving the direction it's moving now? Speaking of looming, a lot of people are real concerned about this U.S. debt clock showing 0 for gold, silver, and oil based against the U.S. dollar. So if you're unfamiliar with the U.S. debt clock, it's just a running total of what the national debt is in the United States, and we're over 31 trillion, top left. And you can look at the liabilities, the federal revenue, the tax revenue, savings account, these sort of things, all running totals. When you're on here, it's going live. It's ticking live. I just screen grabbed it here. But I want to bring your attention over to what has been making the airwaves since the last 3 days. Now, this started apparently on Friday. I just went to 0. Had never done that before, but now it's 0. So what is this all about? I thought I would take a look too because I was a little perplexed and confused. It all has to do with the money supply, M1 and M2, going negative. If you look at the wave of layoffs coming across, defaults on auto loans, these sort of things, all happening while the money supply is constricting. Now, it's not at a 0 point from where it started umpteen decades ago. It's just comparatively to where we were sitting at the end of 2021 and 2 and how that peaked and now it's dropped off. M1, super narrow definition of money. Basically coins, currency in circulation, demand deposits, checks, money, instant. This is M1, so that is going negative, and it looked like the contraction was around 3.6%. Now here's where the rubber meets the road, and I think that's why the debt clock's going to 0 on these here. Now, is it that there's no bids for gold, silver, and oil out there in US dollars? No. It's just that the negative growth of the money supply. Now we're going to look at M2 money going negative also. So M1 and M2 both going negative, but here's the thing. M2 money supply, this is the big dog out there. It includes pretty much everything. Savings deposits, mutual fund, liquid financial assets, stocks, these sort of things. All money captured in America, goods and services, everything. The bottom sentence there, historically, when the money supply dramatically increases in global economies, there would be an uptick in inflation in prices, food, goods, services. But see the inverse, the Fed's trying to lower it, so they're going to subtract and take the money out because the inverse would happen. It would decrease. So they're trying to push against inflation here. So if we look at the total overall amount of money, M2 money supply within the system, that's also declined below 0 comparatively to a year ago. And then you'll see the same thing. This is off shadow stats where they measure a little bit more the real economy versus some numbers that don't actually really track all of inflation. They leave a few key things out like energy, which is a big one. So the blue is the true inflation rate that we're looking at in the United States, hovering somewhere around 16 to 18%. But that's also declining. Why is that declining as well? Well, the money supply is being contracted out of the system. I found this little nugget here. This is probably the best chart. If you take anything away from this video, this is it here. The money supply, when it goes below zero and contracts, and there's no new money going to be flowing into the system, look where the contractions occurred, where the drastic, steep drop-offs were. Culminating in 1929. Does that ring a bell? Right after World War II, 1943 to 1949. That was a serious stagflation era after World War II. And here we are, the third largest drop-off, but this one's just straight down. There's no break on that. There's no seesaw down. This is straight off a cliff. Something a little bit different, but still puts it in perspective for you. So what does that mean for you and I? Well, things are going to begin changing economically a little bit faster than they have. There was a bunch of money pumped in during the COVID time to try to spur and continue an economy moving forward. Well, this time it seems like there's a serious contraction about to happen here. Now, will it go to zero in a day? No. Would they let it float into civil unrest and chaos, like complete societal breakdown? No. Will there be contraction? Oh yeah. With the amount of already things that aren't functioning properly and the amount of foreclosures happening, repos on automobiles because they can't pay, it's even higher than 2009 with the financial crisis, 2008 and 9. The levels that you thought were so absurd with 2008 and 9 are being eclipsed. They're going to double or triple compared to what we see today. Food prices are rising. People are very unhappy. So where does this take us in terms of a society? Well, at least in my opinion, I really think that this is going to be the beginning of the rollout of universal basic income, central bank digital currencies, to try to stave off some of this. And remember also, I think it's March 1st, the food stamp allotment or the SNAP program is going to decrease the benefits. They increased them during COVID, but now they're going to decrease them, adding more trouble and more hardship to people that need that program to continue to feed themselves. Plus, the food banks are experiencing record shrink of donations to the food banks. So they're really actively reaching out, like, please, anything that's gone in your cabinets that you're not going to eat yourself, maybe you tried some of your storable foods, you didn't like it, give it to us, we're going to feed some people with it. Because people are feeling the food pinch and they're keeping more and more in that food in their own homes. There's a lot of change coming. 2023 seems to be a big year. I keep pointing to 2024 October as something strange with the alignment of the gas giants and possible magnetic interlooping on toroid fields. Definitely going to affect A, our planetary atmosphere, but B, the magnetic field of the planet, and then C, we're on that. Magnetic fields of your brain processing information will be different over these next 2 years. But don't take at it as doom and gloom. Look at it as a way to repurpose, to pivot, because everywhere you might see danger, a way to fall down, there's always a way to spring back and find a different direction forward. That's the way we're going to need to think. We're not going to be able to sit in this misery and sorrow. We need to create to get out of this. And that's the only way we're going to do it, is finding new ways that we all can move through and benefit from these changes. Growing your own food is going to be one of them. Spring planting season's just around the corner. TrueLeafMarket.com, heirloom and organic seeds for any grow zone on the planet. That link's in the description box below. Every purchase you make helps keep the Adapt 2030 channel on air. And also Thursday night, 10 p.m. to midnight, Ransom Godwin and myself on Rumble, the Adapt 2030 channel. Also many Ice Age Conversations podcast right on YouTube, and a Mountain High Time channel on YouTube, streaming live for 2 hours. And you can interact in the chat room with others of like mind. I do thank you for watching. Hope you got something out of the video, and I'll see you next time.